Iowa. We've even had a few showers here in Pennsylvania. So that's something we've been keeping an eye on. But what are we kind of seeing out there, Mike?
Right. Well, we're starting to see storms start to deteriorate, especially in the Midwest, the plains going from northern Texas through Oklahoma, and it's starting to fire also in Kansas. We have here Brian Mastros in the studio going to be showing us what's going on out there, Brian.
Thanks, guys. As we currently take a broad look across the entire continental United States, we do see multiple areas that are currently under severe weather warnings, including many across the state of Ohio and into Indiana, and then this large swath extending from southern Nebraska all the way down into Texas. As we will take a closer look right now, as we do have a tornado warning in just on the border of Kansas and Nebraska over there, where we do currently have multiple severe thunderstorm warnings and a tornado warning active right now as well. The tornado warning is for Nuckolls and Thayer County, including the city of Delshire, and that warning will be in effect until 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, Central Time rather. Then also we do have severe thunderstorm warnings for that same county, also impacting the cities of Alexandria and Gilland, and that is also in effect until 6:30 p.m. Then as we will zoom out and take a broader look once again at this massive line that does extend all the way down from southern Nebraska all the way down into Texas, as we do zoom out and we see all of this. Do you see a lot of these storms are beginning to fire right now from all the way into southern Nebraska, many in Kansas and Oklahoma as well, and then all the way down into Texas. There's been numerous severe warnings going out throughout the afternoon, and even a couple of tornado warnings in portions of Oklahoma and Kansas and Texas earlier today. We currently have this intense line of thunderstorms, which is severe warning for a large portion of it, including this warning down here, as we take a closer look at that for Callahan, Jones, Nolan County, and Taylor County, affecting the cities of Albion, Merkel, Potsdam, and Ty, and that warning will be in effect until 7:15 p.m. Central Time. And then we'll zoom out once again, as we do have another tornado warning that's away from the main action over in the plains, as we do go over all the way over to Indiana, where we currently have a tornado warning just on the border of Kentucky there, and that is for Henderson, Spencer, Vanburgh, and Warwick County. So multiple counties being impacted by this tornado, potential tornado. We do currently have that warning up right now. That will be in effect until 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And also the cities of Boone, Booneville, Newburgh, and Ohio as well. They all need to be looking out for this potential tornado. And then also that many counties in that same area are also under that severe thunderstorm warning as well, as we do have this very impressive looking line of thunderstorms that will be continuing to push its way eastward as we go throughout the afternoon and into the rest of the evening hours. Then there's even more severe weather in southern Ohio over here. Multiple severe warnings all the way throughout southern Ohio, including Cincinnati as well. And then we do have this other line, almost like a train, just pushing its way eastward. It's been doing so all afternoon and will continue to do so into the evening. And also, like I mentioned, we do have the city of Cincinnati itself is in this severe warning over here, including many other counties, including Butler County, Dearborn County, Franklin County, Hamilton County. And that warning is in effect until 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you're paying attention to those time zones for a lot of these severe warnings, as some of them are right on the border of Eastern Time and Central Time. And then we're going to zoom back out and go back over to where the main action is, which is over in the plains area of the continental United States, which, like I mentioned before, we do have that massive line extending all the way from southern Nebraska all the way down into Texas. This is the main event of the evening. This is what we will be tracking as we go throughout the rest of the evening, and we do thank all of you for tuning in. And this is what we're going to be paying attention to for much of the evening as we do go back over to the desk with Amanda and Mike.
All right, Brian, well, thank you for turning that back here. And again, like he's mentioning, these storms are starting to get very severe, especially across places of northern Texas through southern Nebraska. But of course, we'll keep you posted throughout the night here as we're broadcasting live here from Walker Cove.
Absolutely. We've seen several tornado warnings over the last couple hours, a few in Kansas, as well as a few in Oklahoma, as well as one in Indiana. So we're actually going to zoom in a little bit closer on that Indiana storm as there is a tornado warning on that.
Right.
Yes, we do have that tornado warning just kind of on the border of Indiana and Kentucky in that same region. Once again, those counties impacted are Henderson, Spencer, Vanderbilt, and Warwick counties, the city of Boone, Booneville, Newburgh, and the city of Ohio as well. This warning is in effect until 6:30 p.m., and I believe earlier today we did have a report that there was an actual tornado on the ground as of about 20 minutes ago We don't have any latest information since then, but there was a confirmed tornado in this area about 20 minutes ago. So we will be keeping a close eye on this confirmed tornado throughout the rest of this broadcast as well, and as this massive line continues to push its way eastward, and that could impact other portions of Kentucky and Ohio and Indiana later on this evening as well. So that's all the latest information on that tornado. So we go back over to you guys at the desk.
All right, thank you, Brian, for that live update. Now we're going to be throwing it up to our social media team up in our social media lounge in Walker Building. We have JP and Anthony on the scene to be bringing you some live tweets and showing you what's going on out there. So what's up, JP and Anthony?
Currently monitoring social media here at our social media desk. We also have live streams behind us. Currently, this one, they're unmute us.
We should be unmuted.
We should be unmuted. We should currently be unmuted.
We are currently unmuted now. Okay.
Okay.
We're good.
Can you hear us? Okay. All right. So we are currently here at the social media desk monitoring social media for the latest updates. Now, as we've monitored the social media throughout the day here, we have not seen any confirmed reports of tornadoes, but we have got a lot of reports of hail, some wall clouds, and some pretty good lightning pictures. So we're going to throw it over to Anthony now at his computer, who's going to show you some of the images that have been coming into us here at the social media desk. Anthony?
Yeah, thanks. So you can see as soon as it switches over to my computer screen, you can see we have this lovely satellite loop here. You can see the storms beginning to blow up in Oklahoma. That was earlier this day, and also in northern Texas, and also in Kansas. So we have this first video here of a lightning strike, a nice cloud-to-ground lightning strike happening right about now. There it is. That was a pretty nice lightning strike. Scrolling up, this was a wall cloud north of Topeka earlier. That was about 47 minutes ago. We do know that that did not produce a tornado, so everyone is safe there. Some hail was also reported with this storm. You can see pretty large ping-pong-sized hail, comparing it to sizes of quarters. Here's it compared to a ruler. Here's a video of, it looks like some pea-sized hail falling in Kansas. That was 43 minutes ago. Here's some more quarter-sized hail. And nice wall clouds. Yeah, so just generally lots of reports of hail and not too many tornadoes at the moment. We'll keep you updated.
expired. So that is good news, as that storm looks like it's beginning to weaken. So that's, again, still something to look forward to.
That's right, although we do want to warn the viewers out there that despite the fact that the warning is over, these storms are still pretty strong. So again, advise any caution when driving in these dangerous storms. Despite the fact that they're not under a warning does not mean that they're still not.
Yeah, thanks so much for that update, Mike. We're actually going to throw it back to the radar with Brian. So Brian, is there anything new you're seeing on the radar?
Yes, we're actually seeing some interesting things down here just by the border of Texas and Oklahoma. If we can zoom in and take a closer look over there, this severe storm warning right here in this area just across the border on the Oklahoma side of the border. That storm has been severe warned for quite a while. It actually had a tornado warning in it earlier this evening. And this severe thunderstorm warning right now is in effect until 6:45 p.m. Central Time, affecting numerous counties and numerous cities in southern Oklahoma. We're actually going to go take a closer look at that via radar scope right now.
Yeah, Brian, and as we look at this storm, you can see how it does start to have some type of almost a hook there at the southeastern tip, down near Tipped, and there is a little bit of rotation there on radar. So I could see that this storm could go tornado warned in a little bit.
Now what we're looking at right here, this is a velocity scan. So what this is actually showing you is the motion within the storm. So wherever you see areas where there's red and green right next to each other. That's indicating areas of potential rotation, such as this one right here. And that's what people like to look for when they are thinking of issuing a tornado warning. And right in this area, we are seeing some signs of rotation, so we're going to be keeping a close eye on this storm as we do go throughout the rest of the evening and into the overnight hours as well.
And it does also have a big area where it can have some rotation get stronger as you have some air flow into that area. It's more discrete compared to some of these other cells. As you can see, very linear systems. Those don't really have as high of a tornado chance as this one does, as it has a very clear area where you can get some good air to flow up in there to help cause that storm to rotate and eventually form a tornado if it does start rotating enough.
Yeah, as we saw in the broader view of this storm, we did see that there was a very long line of storms extending all the way from southern Nebraska into Texas, but this little bit has begun to separate itself away from that main line like you just mentioned there, and that's why we're starting to see some of this rotation. And you can also see some of those very high values on this radar indicating that there's probably some areas of hail within there as well.
And it's also worth noting that that area is also under a flash flood warning. The flash flood warning is in effect until 9:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time, and that's just because the torrential rainfall that's been falling due to this system. If we take a loop of these storms, you can see that it's just been consistently over that one area, just heavy torrential rainfall. And that rotation is also beginning to get more organized, you can see as we go through a loop here. Just now to the northeast of the Tipton area, that rotation getting a little bit tighter, which could be indicative of that storm strengthening and maybe eventually getting to produce at least funnel clouds, if not tornadoes.
Especially even in those last couple frames on this loop, you can see that rotation is definitely beginning to tighten up a little bit just off to the east of Tipton and just off to the northeast of Tipton there. It's really beginning to tighten up, and that's really a close place we're going to have to keep a close eye on for a potential tornado later on.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see a tornado warning issued soon for this area just out of precaution, as it does have elements coming together that are more indicative of a tornado than just a classic severe thunderstorm. So this storm is probably one to keep watching very closely as we continue on through these next couple minutes as this storm continues to work its way towards the northeast, and that'll eventually head towards the Oklahoma City area as its path is now directly towards the Oklahoma City area. That's still at least an hour away, but it is headed that direction. And so you do have severe weather headed your way if you're in the Oklahoma City area, the Edmond area, the Norman area. All those areas do have severe storms headed that way, and there are some small storms also ahead of that line.
Yeah, anytime you have a storm such as this heading towards a major metropolitan area, that's not really a good thing. Then we really hope everyone there is taking the threat seriously. Another city I see in the path of it is Moore, Oklahoma, and Moore, Oklahoma has been hit by numerous strong tornadoes just in recent memory, so hopefully they don't get another one here this evening. Thank you, Andy, for helping us take a closer look at these storms via radar scope. So now we're going to go back over to the desk with Amanda and Michael.
All right, thank you, Brian, for that, and Andy for those updates on radar scope. Looking at the complexity of these storms, certainly they are starting to shape up and spin up, possibly even spinning some tornadoes as we go throughout the night.
Yeah, I did want to point out one thing I found on social media. This is from Reed Timmer, a renowned storm chaser, very well known. He posted a video on Twitter, so I want to go to my screen share, and this shows a video that he posted of a wall cloud in the Wichita Mountains, and it sounds like this is relatively nearby one of the storms that you guys were talking about. But in this video, if I can get it to play, it's showing a rotating wall cloud, and unfortunately it's not playing, so we will try and remedy that. But for right now, we're going to go to a little bit of a break so that we can have a little bit of a chance to regroup and look at some of these cells developing. So we'll hope that you will stick around with this feed. And as always, this is the Penn State Campus Weather Service, and we'll be back in just a little bit.
Well, thank you for tuning back here to the Campus Weather Services live broadcast team. We are again throughout the night here looking at live severe weather coverage in Walker Studios, and we have a new tornado warning that is issued right now. We're going to be throwing it actually right now to Andy Moffett, who's in the studio, is going to be showing you that storm. Andy?
Thank you, Mike. As we take a wide look here, you can see we do have this big system like Brian was talking about in Oklahoma and Texas, but we do have a new warning right now that was issued in Indiana. So we're going to zoom in on that warning and take a closer look at where exactly that warning is for. This warning actually is for a tornado that was confirmed by the public. So the public did witness a tornado on the ground. And as we take a look at where this tornado warning is for, it's for Greene, Monroe, and Owen counties here in Indiana. Some of the cities, Beech Creek, Spencer, and Worthing. So right down there, it is in the Bloomington area of Indiana. So if you're in Bloomington, do take shelters. You have a tornado warning just to your southwest, and that is for a tornado that's been confirmed by the public on the ground. Public individuals did see a tornado on the ground, and they reported that, and so that is for that storm right there. We're going to zoom back out and look at the wide view and look back again then at the storm on the Oklahoma and Texas border. We do have this line of severe storms, and there is this one storm right down here that is starting to become looking like it might develop some more characteristics of that a tornado warned storm would have. It's got a little bit of a hook, it looks like, down there, especially on the southern edge right down in that area. So that could have some rotation in that, and you can see here are the counties. It's for Comanche, Jackson, and some other counties as well, and that is working its way towards the Oklahoma City area. If we zoom out a little bit, you can see the Oklahoma City area is just off towards the northeast of that storm. So over the next hour or so, this will be working its way into that area. It might pass a little bit to the north of Oklahoma, but do be prepared if you're in the Oklahoma, the Edmond, Norman, Moore, Oklahoma area. Do be prepared for this line of severe weather to approach your area. Right now, nothing super tornadic in this line, but it could become that as we get further towards the east. So do be prepared and keep monitoring weather networks as you are approaching that. We're going to head back now to the main desk with Amanda and Mike.
Yes, one thing I want to clarify with that Indiana storm is it was heading towards Bloomington, and that's actually where Indiana University is. So if you know anyone that goes to Indiana University, make sure that they are aware of this storm, as that is something you really don't want to mess with, as that is a newly tornado-warned storm with a confirmed tornado on the ground. So make sure that anyone you know in that area is safe.
That's right, and again, with these storms, you make sure that if there is a tornado on the ground, you find the lowest part of your home or building in a sheltered location, whether not near any windows, typically between walls where you feel safe enough. And if you're outside, make sure you find the lowest lying area, because these storms are very strong.
Make sure also, if you are outside, to get off of roadways, find an interior shelter. One thing that was just talked about in one of my classes today, make sure you don't go under an overpass, as it may seem like it would be a safe place to go, but that's actually one of the most dangerous places to go, as air can get funneled under those overpasses. Also, mobile homes, very dangerous in the case of tornadoes, so make sure you find an interior room, especially if possible underground, as that's the safest place to be when there is a tornado.
That's right, especially with, like you mentioned, with these underpasses, you have a wind that goes right through them, and it almost acts like a vacuum, and you can get sucked out basically by these tornadoes, especially even if you're in a car. If you're in a car, you're just basically in a big metal box, and you're going to be swung around in the tornado, and it's just not a very safe situation for anyone who's out there right now.
Yes, definitely. So one thing we're going to take a look at is social media. So we're going to throw it up to our social media desk upstairs on the 6th floor of Walker. So JP and Anthony, can you guys hear us?
We can hear you loud and clear, Amanda and Michael. Here in the social media desk, at the social media desk, we switched to our tweet deck so we can monitor different tweets coming in from Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, and now Indiana. We do have this most recent tornado warning for Worthington and Spencer, Indiana until 8 p.m. On Twitter feeds, again, we have not gotten any pictures of confirmed tornadoes, mainly just hail and wall clouds. But Anthony did want to try to show that video that Amanda was trying to show earlier that Reed Timmer took in the Wichita Mountains. So if we want to switch over to Anthony's live view here on his computer, we'll take a look at that. Anthony?
So I got this video here from Reed Timmer of the wall cloud in the Wichita Mountains. I'm going to play it now. So you can see that wall cloud is, sorry, computer's going to full screen. There's the wall cloud right in here, and it's actually rotating. It doesn't look to be rotating as fast as it would need to be to produce a tornado, but it is a rotating wall cloud. So he's showing some surrounding areas. Nice lightning strike in the middle there. So that's a nice video from Reed Timmer.
And I just want to remind everybody out there that even if you're not under a tornado or even a severe thunderstorm warning, lightning is still one of the biggest threats to human lives today. So just remember that if you are outside in any type of thunderstorm, to seek shelter indoors and away from windows. Anthony?
I have another video up here of some pretty high waters. Another thing to look out for, especially on severe weather days, is flooding. You want to be sure not to drive through flooded roadways because the water can easily carry you away. So
yes, turn around, don't drown is the National Weather Service mantra for that. So that's pretty much it up here at the moment from the social media desk. We will keep you updated as these images continue to come in. We will now throw it back to the desk. Amanda and Michael?
JP and Anthony. So we're actually going to go back to the green screen with our forecaster, Andy Moffett. Andy, what are you seeing on radar right now?
Well, I wanted to take a look at one of our high-resolution radar programs we have. We're going to take a look at some of the storm dynamics and just some of the reports that we've been getting of this storm. If we take a look here, you can see hail reports that we've gotten. These in this area, this is 1.75-inch hail that's been reported, 1.25-inch hail, and this is in that big line in Oklahoma and Texas right now. You can see these large hail reports up in this area, well over an inch of hail reported. All these red boxes are severe thunderstorm warnings, not tornado warnings. And you can also see these wind reports that we also have gotten 65-mile-an-hour gusts there, 55 there. And this is that one storm that's headed towards the Oklahoma City area. It's not completely strengthening just yet, but it is still working towards the Oklahoma City area.
Yeah, this is that same storm that we were taking a closer look at earlier when we did see some rotation. The rotation isn't as strong of a signature as it was earlier, but like Andy has just shown us, there is still that very strong hail threat right now. And actually, just in the last couple of minutes since I said that, the rotation has come back a little bit. It's still not as tight as it was just a few minutes ago when Andy and I were looking at it, but it's still
rotation is that area of green and red next to each other, those winds going in different directions. That's the rotation that's in the atmosphere, and when that comes together, it can form tornadoes and funnel clouds and just stronger winds in general. So we're going to head back to the green screen now, and we're going to look at this big line as a whole once again. So this large line right here, stretching all the way down from Omaha down past Dallas. If you're outside at a sporting event in any of these areas, make sure to be prepared, especially if you're east of this line, as you still have severe weather headed your way. Wichita, just now in the middle of some of that severe weather. There's a severe thunderstorm warning, it looks like, for the Wichita area at this time. As we see here, it's going until 7:45 p.m. Central Time here, and that is for the Wichita area. And that looks like it's probably just going to be some large hail and strong winds. Doesn't look very tornadic right now. We're going to go back now to the the desk where Amanda and Mike have another update.
Yes, thank you for that, Andy. I want to make you aware that here, closer to home in Pennsylvania, the National Weather Service and the Storm Prediction Center have actually dropped quite a few counties from the severe thunderstorm watch. So I'm going to pull up in just a moment the current watch area. So let me pull that up on my screen share. So hopefully you guys are seeing my screen share, but just southern counties of Pennsylvania, so areas including Johnstown, Altoona, Gettysburg, Harrisburg, York, and Lancaster are all still in the severe thunderstorm watch, and that's for those cells that are in parts of West Virginia and are moving northeast. But that's about all that we're expecting here still in Pennsylvania. The severe thunderstorm watch that was issued earlier that was supposed to go until 9 p.m. has expired for most of the counties except for south central Pennsylvania.
That is right. And again, these storms can produce strong winds and potential hail. So make sure that throughout the night you keep tuned to us and, of course, the National Weather Service and any updates, any warnings that may pop up along the way. So now we are going to be throwing it back up to the social media lounge to see what's up there and see if we have any new reports, especially with this tornado that is heading toward Indiana University.
So, Anthony?
Yeah, hi guys. So I'm getting up my Twitter feed right now. I just have a photo up here on my screen of a report that tells of some small damage that was observed to a barn reported by an emergency manager at 7:21 p.m. So that was about a half hour ago.
And that was in Indiana.
In Indiana, right. So that's that Indiana storm. They reported some damage to a barn near Worthington in Indiana.
So that's again where we were monitoring one of the most recent tornado warnings. Still another tornado warning out, or they just re-upped the one in Indiana. So Spencer, Indiana, until 8 p.m. We still have that tornado warning out. So if you are anywhere in the area of Spencer, Indiana, you need to be taking shelter. Again, there was a confirmed tornado warning, or a confirmed tornado with that warning earlier. Again, monitoring Twitter, we are not seeing much in the way of images coming in at this point, other than those of the wall clouds that we saw earlier that did not produce tornadoes in Kansas and Oklahoma. One of the things I did want to mention is, as we get later in the evening here and it does become dark, chasing storms and even just being out there in storms becomes, that much more dangerous because you can't see what's coming. It'll be more difficult for us to get photos and pictures, but it's also more difficult for us to tell you exactly what's going on because of that. So just be aware of that. As nighttime falls, you need to have your NOAA weather radio or any type of news program up on your radio or TV, as long as you have power, to get these warnings when they come out, because you will not be able to see these storms when they come your way. That's all we have here at the social media desk. Back to you, Amanda and Mike.
Yes, thank you so much, JP, for that information. We do want to go back to Andy, who has the latest on what the difference is between the severe thunderstorm watches and warnings, as well as tornado watches and warnings. So we're going to throw it back to Andy with those graphics.
We're going to start just looking at the radar here. This is actually showing some hail. Here, this is picking up hail for the Anthony area, as well as this is for the Wichita area also in that severe thunderstorm. This is picking up the hail that is in these storms. If we go down to that storm southwest of Oklahoma City, you can see the hail in that storm also. This blue being depicted on the radar is actually the hail that is being depicted by the radar. It's being picked up, and so this shows that if we zoom in a little bit more also, that there's some decent hail in this area as it heads towards the Oklahoma area. We're now going to switch to these graphics regarding severe thunderstorm, what they mean. If we take a look here, this is what a severe thunderstorm watch means. So this means that conditions are favorable for severe thunderstorms, so damaging winds are going to be in excess of 58 miles an hour, large hail 1 inch or greater, frequent lightning, and heavy rain. Those are all things that should be expected, not necessarily things that are occurring. So be prepared to take shelter and stay tuned to the local weather. We do have numerous severe thunderstorm watches currently in effect. Now, as we go and advance and look at what a severe thunderstorm warning is, that means that those conditions are imminent or occurring. So that means those damaging winds, large hail, frequent lightning, and heavy rain are actively occurring or are just about to occur. So that's what that means, and that means to seek shelter away from windows and be in the lowest level of your home. And do we have what the conditions for a tornado watch is as we take a look at what the tornado watch criteria are? It's similar to severe thunderstorm watch criteria. As we load this up here, you can see that a tornado watch criteria is for conditions that will be favorable for tornadoes to develop. Severe thunderstorms, so you will have severe thunderstorms in a tornado watch most likely, and it's for conditions that those severe thunderstorms have the chance to develop tornadoes. So be prepared to take shelter, keep tuned to local weather. And a severe thunderstorm warning is if you have criteria that tornadoes are either on the ground or being detected by radar. We're going to now throw it back to the RadarScope app as we take a look at some of the severe storms that are currently happening around the country right now.
Yes, thank you, Andy. We're actually going to take a closer look using RadarScope, kind of investigating some of those, the inner workings of some of those specific cells. So looking at RadarScope, we're going to switch to that feed. And here, this is right near Oklahoma City. This cell in particular is by Wichita Falls, also towards Oklahoma City. So zooming in on this is differential reflectivity. So areas in the reds and the greens, that's areas where the there are larger particles that are blocking some of the radar beam from getting farther out. So that's where likely there would be some of the hail core. In addition, looking at correlation coefficient, not really a lot to show on here, but you do see, if you see these streaks of yellow and green, let me see if I can draw on this. In this area, those streaks are indicative of some of those hail cores. Some of those deep hail cores make it so that the beam is partially blocked, and that makes it so that the feed gets weaker as it goes back, so that a lot of those signatures coupled together are indicative of a pretty strong hail core. So that's something to keep an eye out heading towards the Oklahoma City area. Also looking at the hydrometeor classification, so the radar's best guess at what type of precipitation is falling. Any pixels that are coming up as red are likely hail, so there's a large hail core, what we were expecting near Fort Cobb and Carnegie, any areas that are circled, as well as some really heavy rain. Those are the darker greens. So again, that's something to keep an eye on as well. Let's see, zooming out into some of the other cells, going back to the Indianapolis cell, looking to see what kind of velocity scans we may be able to see. This is the velocity. There's really not too much of a couplet on it anymore. A couplet is where the winds are blowing in different directions, so that would be indicative of rotation. So the fact that there is not really anywhere that red and green are in small amounts very close together, that's a good thing because it means that rotation is beginning to weaken. So we're going to throw it back, or we're going to come back to the desk as we're going to talk a little bit more about these storms.
Right, yeah, these storms certainly have been firing all throughout the evening, tonight, and just like Amanda was showing you, these storms are pretty complex, and us meteorologists here use these radar applications that detect certain things in these storms, such as the correlation coefficients and the differential reflectivities, which may seem gibberish to many people, but for us, they allow us to determine what is inside these storms, and thus allows us to communicate these things to you, the public at home.
So one thing I want to point out again is the fact that there is a very strong line of thunderstorms all the way from Kansas down through Oklahoma that are generally moving from the southwest to the northeast. So that's something to keep an eye on. Again, we did point out that the tornado warning up in Indiana looks like the rotation has weakened a little bit, so hopefully that tornado warning will be allowed to expire, and the fact that that storm is no longer intensifying, so that looks like some good news.
Right, now we're going to take it down to the wall. We're going to go back to Andy to see if we have any other updates with these storms. So Andy, are we seeing anything else popping up on the radar?
We're still having that line of severe storms continue, especially in the central Oklahoma area. As they approach Oklahoma City, we are seeing some of these storms, if we zoom in to the Oklahoma City area, some of them are becoming slightly more discrete. We have this one just to the south west of Oklahoma City, and this is the one in this area that has me most concerned to produce any tornadoes, is it's kind of ahead of this main line of severe thunderstorms. And if it's ahead of that line, it's still able to get much of the moisture before the line kind of seals it away from this one cell of the thunderstorm. So this one cell in particular does probably have the best chance to produce any tornado of the ones currently in the central Oklahoma area. As you can see, as we draw on the predicted path of this storm, it is headed towards the Oklahoma City area. It's headed there quite slowly. It's going to take probably about an hour or so to get there. It looks like it's moving at around 40 to 50 miles per hour, and it's moving off towards the northwest. And as you can see, some of these areas that it's going to head towards, and the times there as it's heading off towards the northwest, some of these cities as areas that this storm will hit. And this is down here in this area would be the highest area likely that a tornado would form in this storm. Down in that southeastern quadrant of the storm is where the rotation would be best for a storm to potentially form. If we zoom out a little bit more and we just take a broader look at this line of severe weather, we can see that it stretches quite a distance. All the way down now, we're having it extend even further to the south. If we zoom in towards that southern edge, down all the way almost to San Antonio even, we're now getting San Angelo, we're now getting some cells to develop. This line becoming severe already, and you can see some hail, probably some large hail associated with that line, and this Here also, all these are headed off towards the east and the northeast. As we go through this next couple of hours, these will continue to track from the east, from the west towards the east, this one going at about 40 miles per hour, and you can see it's going to be affecting these local areas in that area right now. If we zoom out and head toward the northern portion of this line, it extends all the way up towards Nebraska. So we are having severe weather currently also in Nebraska even, Wichita, Kansas as well, and we head north here in Omaha. We do have severe thunderstorms as well. This is mainly behind that line that we had. So the threat isn't as strong here. The main threat is this line that's approaching Kansas City, but these aren't even warned at this point. These are just some strong thunderstorms right now. But we do have some warned storms just down towards the south there. You can see towards the southwest of Kansas City, and you can see these times that these severe thunderstorm warnings go to, about 7:15 p.m. Central Time. And these are it's just a line of strong thunderstorms right now. Nothing super organized and nothing looking super tornadic. If you just take a tour of all of these warnings, Wichita in a warning right now until 7:45 p.m. and all of these storms just working their way off towards the east and the northeast as we go through these next couple of hours. And as we go into the overnight hours, those things will continue to work their way towards the east eventually before dissipating later tonight. We're going to go back now to the main desk with Amanda and Mike for another update over there.
All right, well, thank you, Andy, for those updates, and we will be continuing to tune in back to Andy at the wall when we have certain storms develop throughout the night.
I did want to point out a couple more things on the radar scope radar, so if we can go to that screen share, that would be really nice. Great, thank you. So here we want to focus on the two cells kind of heading towards Oklahoma City and the Norman area. First, the Norman storm that's not really severe warned, but it does have some very intense rain. You can see we put the storm tracks on there. Each small line here indicates a 15-minute interval, so rain showers can be expected in the Norman area within the next half hour to 45 minutes or so. That is this storm right. That is this storm right here, and it's pushing off this way. The other storm that I wanted to point out was this one. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. As Andy mentioned, this storm is actually moving relatively slow, so the four segments indicate 1 hour of movement. So the cell on the back edge down towards Snyder, that's actually moving a little bit faster. I can pull, that's the severe thunderstorm warning. But I can pull the speed, so it's moving northeast at around 32 knots, so a little bit faster than 35 miles an hour moving northeast. But then the cell up closer with towards Carnegie and Darko is moving slower, only at around 23 knots. So those are going to be pushing off, so making their way, if they stay on the same course, towards Oklahoma City, probably closer to, it's showing 8:42, but that is, oh yes, 8:42 Eastern time, which would be 7:42 Central time, so making it to Oklahoma City around 8:30, 8:40 Central time, so about 2 hours from now. So we're going to go back. We're going to go on a short break, so Mike, is there anything you'd like to say with this storm?
Yeah, look, these storms, they're forming throughout the night, but despite the fact we don't have many tornado warnings right now, that does not mean that this is not a particularly dangerous situation for most of the people out in the Midwest. These things could fire. Storms, these tornadoes can spin up at a moment's notice, so make sure you keep tuned to the Campus Weather Service's live broadcast team, as we will have continuing coverage throughout the night as storms will continue to fire. You can follow us here at PSU Weather on Twitter or at us here on Facebook. We will, again, be continuing most of the coverage. We'll be right back with more coverage after this short break.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of the severe weather broadcast for the severe weather out in the plains. We do have a couple severe thunderstorms out in the plains. Mike, what are we kind of seeing out there?
Right, we haven't seen much in terms of tornado warnings. We did have that one tornado warning out in Indiana that was heading toward Indiana University. Otherwise, we're just having very big severe storms out in the Midwest. They are potentially bringing damaging winds and large hail from many places, and they could spawn tornadoes So right now we're going to head back to the wall with we're going to have Brian at the wall is going to be showing us more of the storm. So Brian, what are we seeing?
Thanks, guys. Like you mentioned, we did have a couple of tornado warnings out here earlier, but right now as we look across the United States, we do see that there are a cluster of storms just off to the east of St. Louis, and then another big line of storms from Omaha all the way beyond Dallas. We're not looking at any tornado warnings anywhere right now. However, we are looking at a plethora of severe thunderstorm warnings, particularly on this line, especially from once you hit the Kansas-Oklahoma border all the way down to the end of this line. And we're going to take a closer look here at this cell just off to the west of Oklahoma City right now, where we do have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for numerous counties and numerous cities. And this is actually the storm that is headed towards Oklahoma City that we've been monitoring for a while here. And we actually have a feed up in our social media room right now, and we will go up to them where they actually have a live feed on location.
Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you so much. We are up here. I'm JP Tracy. This is Anthony Prusel. We're up here in the social media lounge monitoring the severe weather out in the Midwest, Oklahoma specifically. Right now we are monitoring this chaser currently in southwestern Oklahoma around the areas of Lawton and Chickasha, monitoring the severe thunderstorms that are currently affecting those areas. Right now we don't see much in the way of any definition here, just some dark skies. You can see kind of a shelf or an edge off in the distance, so most likely this chaser is under the clouds, but not in the heaviest of precipitation. We do have some pictures, though, here on Anthony's laptop from earlier of some of the shelf clouds that were visible on these severe thunderstorm warnings in Oklahoma. Anthony?
Right, so about 17 minutes ago, we have this photo coming in from TornadoTitans.com. You can see a very nice shelf cloud here with the rolling motion. And then another one just 6 minutes ago, around Manitou, Oklahoma. This is another great shelf cloud. You can see some rain shafts right in here. And rain shafts are areas where the rain is really heavy. It's coming down very heavy. The last photo we have here is this very interesting radar signature. This is a really interesting vortex, and we can see that in these areas where it's red and pink, that's where precipitation is going to be very, very heavy. And oftentimes you can find hail in those red and pink areas. One more photo we have taken a little while ago is actually right in our own backyard. This picture of lightning from Peter James. This is just outside of Philly, somewhere in New Jersey actually. So we do have some severe storms occurring all across the country today. It is not just in the plains.
Yeah, exactly. Severe weather also in Ohio and Indiana earlier. So again, we are monitoring social media for the latest updates. Still no pictures of any confirmed tornadoes, but we will keep you updated as needed. Back to Amanda and Michael at the desk.
Thanks so much, JP. We do want to take another look at those severe thunderstorms out in the plains, so we're going to throw it back to Brian at the Chroma Key.
Thanks, guys. Once again, here is that massive line, really just almost continuous line from the Kansas-Oklahoma border all the way into central Texas, and this is going to be continuing to be pushing its way eastward as we go throughout the rest of the evening. And a couple things that we will be monitoring throughout the rest of the evening. Over here, just north of Dallas, the New York Yankees are playing the Texas Rangers. That game starts at 8:05 p.m. Eastern Time, so we will be monitoring that as these rain showers do get closer to the area of that game. And then we're going to zoom in again here on this line. This is the part that could be impacting that game in about a couple hours or so. So we will be keeping an eye on that and keep anybody posted there. And we do hope that the Texas Rangers are keeping an eye on it as well, so that way they can keep the fans and players safe from this storm. And then we're going to continue to move this north as we go back into the Oklahoma area, where we just saw that storm that JP and Anthony were talking at up at the social media desk. That is this storm that's currently headed towards Oklahoma City. So we'll once again also be keeping an eye on that and be keeping in constant communication with our social media team, see if there's any updated information in regards to this storm as well. And then we'll continue to move north here as this whole line is severe warned all the way up into central Kansas. And we're going to focus on the storm just by Wichita over here. And just to the south of Wichita, this storm had a lot of hail in it earlier today, just like about 20 minutes ago or so. And we're actually going to go take a closer look at this storm with Andy over at RadarScope. Andy?
Thank you, Brian. So yeah, as we look at this storm, here is Wichita here up in the center of your screen. And the interesting point to note about this storm is actually down here. If we loop this, you can actually see just on this radar of the composite reflectivity, just the rain falling, you can actually see some rotation, very broad rotation in this whole system right here. Now, this isn't a tornado that will be forming, but this does just show how much shear is in the atmosphere right now, giving these storms some motion at this time.
Yeah, that rotation there, it's actually very just pretty to look at on the radar here. Luckily, it's that broad rotation. It's not that tight rotation that can form those tornadoes. However, these are still dangerous storms. Even if there aren't any tornado warnings posted for these storms, we don't want people to be taking this threat lightly. These storms do still contain strong wind gusts and potentially some large hail as well. So we do hope everyone is still taking the threat of these storms seriously.
And as we do transition back over to looking at the velocities, and this is again, the reds and greens are showing winds that are coming towards and away from the radar. So when you have those two colors next to each other, that does show that the rotation is present, and you can see in that area there is colors of red and green next to each other showing that rotation of that large thunderstorm as it's rotating towards the east. And also, as of note, Oklahoma City is now under a severe thunderstorm warning. As we take a look at the radar close in there, Norman, Moore, and Oklahoma City all currently under a severe thunderstorm warning.
Yeah, and that's just not the only one that could impact this area. That storm is just kind of sliding up from the south there, and then there's also that other storm that we've been monitoring for a while now that is just off to the west there, and that will be continuing to push towards Oklahoma City as we do go through the rest of the evening.
And as we loop this, you can see that storm is working its way just sort of towards the north, not really having much of an east component there, just working mainly up towards the north, so that we'll be moving even more into the Oklahoma City metro area. And we just had another severe thunderstorm warning issued, now including the El Reno area for this storm. So as these storms just work their way off towards the northeast and the north, these are beginning to become severe right around the metro Oklahoma City area. So if you do have friends and family in that area or are there right now, do stay inside, as these are dangerous storms. Not really any tornadoes yet confirmed on these storms, but still they're very dangerous, and you don't want to be caught out in the severe hail and gusty winds that will be in these storms.
Especially in a major metropolitan area such as the Oklahoma City area. A lot of people live and work in that area, and anybody headed home a little late from work this evening, we hope everybody's able to stay safe out there in Oklahoma City. So that's all we have over at RadarScope right now. So we're going to go back over to you guys at the desk for Amanda and Michael.
Right, thank you, Brian and Andy, for that update on the storms there in Oklahoma. Yes, they are continuing to develop. Again, no tornadoes, no tornado warnings as of yet in that area, but again, the night is young, so things will potentially start to pick up. Again, these storms are severe, despite the fact they don't have a tornado on the ground or even indicated by the radar. They can produce straight-line winds, which could still produce damage to a lot of mobile homes and houses, and also damaging hail, an inch or more, can definitely do damage to cars, even lawns, and also people. You can get hurt out there with hailstones.
Yeah, we do want to keep an eye on some of those storms throughout the evening, so we will be sticking around. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at PSG Weather, as well as on Facebook by searching Campus Weather Service. But for now, we're going to go on a small break, as the immediate threat is not too severe, but as always, again, keep an eye on Twitter, not only our Twitter feed, but also other forms of social media and other social media accounts that are bringing those live updates. But for now, we're going to go on a short break. Make sure you stay tuned in, and we'll have the latest as these storms develop.
All right, well, thank you for tuning back here to the Campus Weather Service's live broadcast of the severe storms out in the plains and here in Pennsylvania. We have been covering these severe storms that have been firing all across the mid-plains in the United States for the most of the evening. However, it does seem like we haven't had any sort of tornado warnings, not many in the area, but we have had numerous severe thunderstorm warnings in the area, and they have been severe, and they have been dropping tremendous amounts of rain, damaging wind, and hail from many places. We have been covering that throughout the evening.
Just to clarify, those severe thunderstorm warnings have mostly been in the plains. We did have a few earlier here in Pennsylvania, but at least here in Pennsylvania, it's been relatively clear, and we're going to throw it over to our forecaster, Brian Mastro, who has the latest on the radar. Brian?
Yes, Amanda, like you mentioned, we did have a few thunderstorms earlier in Pennsylvania, some of which were actually severe warned. However, those have all begun to push their way out of Pennsylvania, and the threat of any severe weather for Pennsylvania is over for this evening. But as we do zoom out to a broader view of the continental United States, we do still see this very impressive line that has just worked its way, started over in Missouri earlier today, and has continued to push its way eastward. Still several severe thunderstorm warnings on that line, including some in Tennessee and then up into the Indiana area. But the main feature today is this massive squall line over here in the plains that extends from up near Omaha, Nebraska, all the way down into central Texas. So just a massive squall line impacting multiple areas. And as we will take a little bit of a closer look here, as we can zoom in down here to just to the west of Dallas, as we zoom in down into central Texas, we do see that this line here, has some heavy precipitation in there. There is some heavy rainfall, even some hail in there as well, and some strong straight line winds as well. And these will be continuing to push their way eastward throughout the evening. Dallas is over here. Like we mentioned earlier, there is the New York Yankees playing the Texas Rangers there just north of Dallas, so that we will be keeping an eye on that throughout the rest of the evening as well. And then as we do go a little bit further north on this line, as we go into Oklahoma, we do see this whole line is just severe warned. A lot of this, including portions of this extending, will be moving into Oklahoma City relatively soon. So those are the two major metropolitan areas that we will be keeping an eye on throughout the rest of the evening, into Dallas and Oklahoma City. And then this whole line is basically severe warned all the way up until Omaha, Nebraska. But there's not really anything too significant in terms of any sort of tornado warnings. So we're not going to be keeping coverage going too much longer here, unless if we do see anything like that developing. But for now, we're going to go back over to the desk with Amanda and Michael.
All right, thank you, Brian, for that another update on the storms. And like Brian was saying, there's just severe storms out over Texas through Oklahoma and into Kansas and Nebraska, and they will be continuing to fire throughout the night. Unfortunately, there aren't any, or fortunately, there are no tornado warnings at this time. There are a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings out there, which does make things pretty severe out there. These storms are dangerous nonetheless, despite the fact there are no tornadoes, so do not take this with a grain of salt. These storms will be continuing to fire throughout the night. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today on today's live broadcast.
Yeah, we will stick around here in the studio. If anything does begin to fire, we will make sure to come back on the air to keep you with the best information as possible. Again, make sure you stay in tune with us on Twitter at PSU Weather, also Campus Weather Service on Facebook. We always have the latest information, but that's going to do it for this coverage tonight. For all of us here in Walker Building, Andy Moffett, Brian Mastro, as well as JP and Anthony up at the social media desk. I know for both Mike and I, this has been a really great evening doing this broadcast, and make sure to do this again in the future. Have a safe evening.